The recorded history of Cyprus extends to the 8th century BC. The local town of Kishon, now Larnaca, recorded part of the ancient history of Cyprus on a stela that commemorated a victory by Sargon II of Assyria there in 709 BCE. Assyrian domination of Cyprus appears to have begun earlier than this, during the reign of Tiglath-Pileser III, and ended with the fall of the Neo-Assyrian Empire in 609 BC, whereupon the city kingdoms of Cyprus gained independence once more. Following a brief period of Egyptian domination in the 6th century BCE, Cyprus fell under Persian rule. The Persians did not interfere in the internal affairs of Cyprus, leaving the city kingdoms to continue striking their own coins and waging war amongst one another, until the late 4th century BCE saw the overthrow of the Persian Empire by Alexander the Great. Alexander's conquests only served to accelerate an already clear drift towards Hellenization in Cyprus. His premature death in 323 BCE led to a period of turmoil as Ptolemy I Soter and Demetrius I of Macedon fought together for supremacy in that region. But by 294 BCE, the Ptolemaic kingdom had regained control and Cyprus remained under Ptolemaic rule until 58 BCE, when it became a Roman province. During this period, Phoenician and native Cypriot traits disappeared, together with the Old Cypriot syllabic script, and Cyprus became thoroughly Hellenized. Cyprus figures prominently in the early history of Christianity, being the first province of Rome to be ruled by a Christian governor in the 1st century, and providing a backdrop for stories in the New Testament early history. Mycenaean settlement. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus claims that the city of Kourion, near present-day Limassol, was founded by Achaean settlers from Argos. He supports the discovery of a late Bronze Age settlement lying several kilometers from the site of the remains of the Hellenic city of Kourion, whose pottery and architecture indicate that Mycenaean settlers did indeed arrive and augment an existing population in this part of Cyprus in the 12th century BC. The kingdom of Kourion in Cyprus is recorded on an inscription dating to the period of the pharaoh Ramses III in Egypt. Assyrian Conquest. Another early written source of Cypriot history mentions the nation under Assyrian rule. A stela found in 1845 in the city formerly named Kishon, near present-day Larnaca, commemorates the victory of King Sargon II in 709 BCE over 7 kings in the land of Iowa, in the district of Iadnana or Atnana. The land of Iowa is assumed to be the Assyrian name for Cyprus, and some scholars suggest that the latter may mean the islands of the Danaans, or Greece. There are other inscriptions referring to the land of Iowa in Sargon's palace at Khorsabad. The 10 kingdoms listed by an inscription of Esarhaddon in 673-2 BCE have been identified as Sola, Salamis, Paphos, Kourion, Amathus and Kishon on the coast, and Tamasus, Ledre, Idalion and Chitroi in the interior of the island. Later inscriptions add Marion, Lapithos and Kerinia. Independent city kingdoms. Cyprus gained independence between 669 and 663 BCE. Cemeteries from this period are chiefly rock-cut tombs. They have been found, among other locations, at Tamasus, Soloa, Patriki and Trachonis. The rock-cut, royal tombs at Tamasus, built in about 600 BCE, imitate wooden houses. The pillars show Phoenician influence. Some graves contain the remains of horses and chariots. The main deity of ancient Cyprus was the great goddess, Phoenician Astarte, later known by the Greek name Aphrodite. She was called the Cypriot by Homer. Paphian inscriptions call her the queen. Pictures of Aphrodite appear on the coins of Salamis as well, demonstrating that her cult had a larger regional influence. In addition, the king of Paphos was the high priest of Aphrodite. Other gods venerated include the Phoenician Anit, Baal, Eshmun, Resheph, Michael and Melkart, and the Egyptian Hathor, Thoth, Bes and Ptah, as attested by amulets. Animal sacrifices are attested to on terracotta votives. The sanctuary of Irene contained over 2,000 figurines. Egyptian period. In 570 BCE, Cyprus was conquered by Egypt under Amasis II. This brief period of Egyptian domination left its influence mainly in the arts, especially sculpture, where the rigidity and the dress of the Egyptian style can be observed. Cypriot artists later discarded this Egyptian style in favor of Greek prototypes. Statues in stone often show a mixture of Egyptian and Greek influence. In particular, ceramics recovered on Cyprus show influence from ancient Crete. Men often wore Egyptian wigs and Assyrian-style beards. Armor and dress showed Western Asiatic elements as well. Persian period. In 526 BCE, the Persian Achaemenid Empire conquered Cyprus. Under the Persians, the kings of Cyprus retained their independence but had to pay tribute to their overlord. The city kingdoms began to strike their own coins in the late 6th century BCE, using the Persian weight system. Coins minted by the kings were required to have the overlord's portrait on them. King Evelyn of Salamis was probably the first to cast silver or bronze coins in Cyprus. The coins were designed with a ram on the obverse and an ankh on the reverse. Royal palaces have been excavated in Palypaphos and Vouni in the territory of Marion on the north coast. They closely follow Persian examples like Persepolis. Vouni, on a hill overlooking Morphu Bay, was built around 520 BC and destroyed in 380 BCE. It contained royal audience chambers, open courtyards, bathhouses and stores. Towns in Cyprus during this period were fortified with mud brick walls on stone foundations and rectangular bastions. The houses were constructed of mud bricks as well, whereas public buildings were faced with ashlar. The Phoenician town of Carpasia, near Rizzocarpasa, had houses built of rubble masonry with square stone blocks forming the corners. Temples and sanctuaries were built mainly in a Phoenician style. Soloa had a small temple with a Greek plan. A definite influence from Greece was responsible for the production of some very important sculptures. The archaic Greek art with its attractive smile on the face of the statue is found on many Cypriot pieces dating between 525–475 BCE, that is, the closing years of the Archaic period in Greece. During the Persian rule, Ionian influence on the sculptures intensified. Copies of Greek chorai appear, as well as statues of men in Greek dress. Naked chouroi, however, although common in Greece, are extremely rare in Cyprus, while women are always presented dressed with rich folds in their garments. The pottery in Cyprus retained its local influences, although some Greek pottery was imported. The most important obligation of the kings of Cyprus to the Shah of Persia was the payment of tribute and the supply of armies and ships for his foreign campaigns. Thus, when Xerxes in 480 BC invaded Greece, Cyprus contributed 150 ships to the Persian military expedition. Ionian Rising. Except for the royal city of Amethyst, the kingdoms of Cyprus took part in the Ionian Rising in 499 BC. The revolt on Cyprus was led by one Zelos of Salamis, brother of the king of Salamis, whom he dethroned for not wanting to fight for independence. The Persians crushed the Cypriot armies and laid siege to the fortified towns in 498 BCE. In Paphos, remains of a Persian siege ramp and counter-tunnels have been excavated at the north gate. Soloa surrendered after a 5-month siege. Around 450 BCE, Kishan annexed Idalian with Persian help. The importance of Kishan increased again when it acquired the Tamasis copper mines. Evagrius I of Salamis dominated Cypriot politics for almost 40 years until his death in 374 BCE. He had favored Athens during the closing years of the Peloponnesian War, elicited Persian support for the Athenians against Sparta, and urged Greeks from the Aegean to settle in Cyprus, assisting the Athenians in so many ways that they honored him by erecting his statue in the Stoa Basileus in Athens. At the beginning of the 4th century BC, he took control of the whole island of Cyprus and within a few years was attempting to gain independence from Persia with Athenian help. Following resistance from the kings of Kishan, Amathus and Soli, who fled to the great king of Persia in 390 BC to request support, Evagrius received less help from the Athenians than he had hoped for, and in about 380 BCE, a Persian force besieged Salamis and Evagrius was forced to surrender. In the end, he remained king of Salamis until he was murdered in 374 BCE, but only by accepting his role as a vassal of Persia. Evagrius I of Salamis introduced the Greek alphabet to Cyprus. In other parts of the island, the Phoenician script or the Cypriot syllabic alphabet were still used. Together with Egypt and Phoenicia, Cyprus rebelled against Persian rule again in 350 BCE, but the uprising was crushed by Artaxerxes III in 344 BCE.